Hi, everyone, and welcome to another powerful conversation with another powerful woman. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Trienne, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. We connected through LinkedIn and had an amazing conversation. I really could have chatted away to her for hours. So I'm delighted to have you join us, Trienne. I'm going to let you introduce yourself so that I don't mess it up. You know you better than I do.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I agree. When we got on that LinkedIn Coffee Connect, I was like, you're my new best friend and I could talk to you forever.
Yeah.
So easy to talk to. I love your take on leadership and women and empowering women. And you're giving such a great platform for them to be able to share what they do, which is amazing. So thank you for letting me be a part of that. So I'm a leadership performance coach. I wear a lot of different hats. Leadership performance coach. I'm a operating partner in a local restaurant that I actually started at when I was 16. So I've got a lot of restaurant industry background. And then I also spent 8 years in retail as a store lead, and I traveled around with new teams and opened new and updated stores for that company. So teamwork and team building is in my blood. Leadership is something that I feel like I live and breathe and try to embody and exemplify. And I get really passionate about helping people reach their potential and get to their next level. And I'm very much like a you can do it type of person.
Yeah.
So I just love the positive energy and trying to spread that goodness and that you can do it as far as I can.
Yeah. So how does that look in terms of your business and what you offer to clients? How do you specifically help them?
I love that. So I offer group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and I do a lot of free trainings on my YouTube and in my Facebook community. I would say the best way that I can offer that to my clients and to my network, I think it is I ask a lot of questions. I always say, like, if you're looking for answers, I'm not the coach for you, because I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and I'm going to ask you to come up with the answers really for yourself. And I'm there to guide them. And I think one thing, and I don't know if you've had this experience as well, is I've had coaches in the background that when I worked with them, I got to a point where I almost kind of depended on the answer that they were giving me. And I was tying what I was going to do next in my actionable steps to were they going to approve of it or think that that was the right move for me. And I just got to a point where I was like, no, I'm supposed to jump ideas off of this person. We are working collaboratively so that I can get to my next level. And although I would love for a client to work with me for as long as they see fit, I also don't want them to do that out of a fear of they don't know what to do next because I'm not there to answer it for them. So I'm the coach that asks lots and lots of questions. And even in my management style or my leadership style for my restaurant and for the store, I would always, when someone would come to me with a question, like, it feels really good to be that person who has the answer. But I thought, if I always have the answer, they are never going to be able to figure it out for themselves. So one of my favorite things to say to them was, if I wasn't standing right here, who would you call? Where would you look? Get that answer from them. Or what do you think? And then I'd say, okay, let's do that. Let's go figure that out. And I would never be like, well, that was the wrong move and I would have done this. Unless we were like getting way off track. I would say, okay, well, something we might try next time would be to think about. So that has definitely grown over the years. I was a horrible manager when I first started, again, because I thought I had to have all the answers. And you know that meme that's going around that says, like, I'm not bossy, I have leadership skills.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that I felt like I was bossy, but I definitely felt the pressure of, because I was in a supervisor leadership, whatever you want to call it, role, I felt the pressure of, I am supposed to have the answers.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, it's empowering for both people when you ask the powerful questions and they come up with their own answer, isn't it? Because it feels very satisfying as the one that asks the questions. And it feels even more satisfying for the person that gets the confidence that they're coming up with their own solutions.
Right. When you see that at first they come to you, and you can see it in their body posture. It's kind of down like, oh, I don't want to ask this question. Is she going to be mad? Is she going to be upset? Is she not going to believe in me? Whatever. And I would just ask them those questions. And then when you see that light go, you can see the light in their eyes and their body language changes. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm a clapper. I'm a high fiver. It is what it is. But I'm never a cheerleader in high school. Wasn't good enough to be with that group. But but I had to kind of create my own squad of we can do this. I believe in you. Spread positivity.
So when coming back to like the leadership aspect of that, because clearly it's something that for you has evolved over time from your experiences and from trying things as well. Are there any sort of like leadership frameworks or training that you had that helped you refine your own leadership and that you help other people to define their leadership with?
So I listened to a lot of podcasts. In 2015, I had my second daughter and I was struggling mentally. I didn't like her and she liked me a lot. So she was constantly on me. She's 8 now. And I would say she's my little bestie, but she still is like a constant attachment. And when I went through that time frame, I thought, I don't want a mom like this. I don't want to lead our family this way. I don't want to be upset every single time I come home. I just made a choice. And my sister said to me, well, have you ever tried listening to podcasts? Because at the time I had a 30-minute commute.
Yeah.
So I started listening to Lori Harder's Earn Your Happy. That was the first podcast I ever listened to. And I would listen to her every day and every night on my way back and forth. And podcasts changed my mental pathways. And then I started listening to people who like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Jenna Kutcher. I started listening to those people that were in that personal development. And then because we learn from what we teach, I would start talking to my team about some of these things that I was learning to try to solidify it in myself.
Yeah.
And I work some of those things into my coaching. Now, I think we should create before we consume at this point. So I take a lot of those things that I learned and I really did create my own framework called LEAD. However, there's so much work already done that people could start with. Like you can get so much free stuff off of YouTube that I encourage people just start. And then you start to understand and know what voices you want to listen to, what strategies sound like they're just crazy, and which ones sound like it's something that I could basically implement in my everyday life. But with my clients, I use the LEAD strategy and I use, like I said, a lot of questions. Like, tell me about that. Where are we going with that? What would that feel like? Tell me what that looks like. So,
yeah. And I think something that I picked up when you were talking there is, and maybe this is something that is particularly relevant for women, is that that moment when you become a mum and you have, you're responsible for how you bring your children up. And I definitely what you were saying resonated, because as a mum, you are the leader of the family, generally speaking, and your children are designed to press your buttons and trigger you in the most incredible ways that are very subtle sometimes. And it's an incredible way to learn great leadership skills. And I think that, speaking from my own experience, particularly in the last, say, 3-4 years, I've completely turned that around and have a much better relationship with my daughters because of it. And sometimes the solution is just saying nothing, which and the power of saying nothing is quite incredible. And the number of times I now have to bite my tongue and say nothing because the instinct is to say something and comment, and it's totally the wrong thing to do. And I think that's such a transferable skill into the workplace as well.
Yeah, even when my first daughter was 4, I said, oh my gosh, I've learned so much from my interactions with her that were very intuitive. Like if I do this, this is what could happen. And I don't want that. So what could I do instead? And I remember when I first thought I wanted to be an author, I said, I'm going to write a book that's like management lessons I learned from my 4-year-old, because I learned so much from her. And looking back, I wish I would have written down all those small anecdotes, because it definitely would have helped a lot of people. However, even this morning, my youngest daughter was having an issue with her hair. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I could either be like, put up or shut up, like, let's go. Or I could ask those questions. What don't you like about it? What do you think we could do? Right. And I can feel like I start to feel the tightness from here to here, this little rectangle. And we talked before a little bit. That throat chakra for me is where I'm the most open. So it got real tight. And I said, I need out of the bathroom. When I was finished, I said, I need out of the bathroom for a few minutes. I need to go away, And my oldest daughter came to me and she's like, are you okay? I said, I'm okay. I need a minute to regroup a little bit. That was a little high anxiety for me. And I just need a minute. And she's like, okay. I could have easily snapped and been like, out of my face. But expressing the fact that I needed space then shows her, you're allowed to say to me, hey, I just need some space. And that's okay.
No, it's there's obviously a common theme with daughters and hair, even with my 15-year-old. A couple of weeks ago, she wanted to dye her hair purple. I'm not sure how relevant this is for our conversation, but I think there's an interesting lesson in here, I promise.
Yeah.
And I helped her dye it purple. She's got dark hair, so obviously it wasn't going to be like this purple, but but it was nowhere near as purple as she wanted it to be. And she was going skiing the next morning, like mega early in the morning. And she came down, she was like so grumpy. I could literally feel her seething that her hair was not the right color. And I just let her sit next to me, which was really hard. I had to properly breathe my way through it because we were watching something on the TV. And after a while, I just said to her, so if there was anything we could do to make this better, what would it be? And she said, well, we could go to Sainsbury's, and that's like the local supermarket. So this is at 8 p.m. at night. And I sat there and I thought about it and I thought, oh my gosh, but the other daughter's getting picked up to go in half an hour. How we can, is this actually something that is feasible? So I'm like, okay, let's get in the car and go. And I had no idea if they would sell it, if they'd have it in, if it was going to be open, anything. But I thought, well, at least then I've tried. And she sees that I've tried and I've done it all really calmly. So we went and we got 2 packs of dye and came back. We did her hair. It was much more purple, but the whole thing was just so calm. And I think like 4 or 5 years ago, it just would not have gone like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that it just ability to just take a step back in those moments of crises and be really objective about what the right solution is. They're just really empowering and fascinating. And that's a really good lesson for her as well.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't, as the matriarch, you didn't say, no, I'm not taking you to the store to do that. You need to come up with another solution, right? Yeah. So I think even with, if you want to call it your team, your crew, your employees, however, everybody defines their culture a little differently. Yeah. And culture is one of the pillars that I believe is good for, successful business growth. That's a whole nother conversation. But I believe when you look at that culture, and are your people coming to you and knowing that you're going to offer an idea, or they're going to offer an idea and then you're going to cut it off and say, no, that's not a possibility? Or are they doing like how you just explained? Okay, let's try it. Like, I don't know the answer. I don't know the outcome. I don't know the result. And I'm not even going to pretend I do. Let's just see if it works. Like, I had a guy on my team that for Mother's Day, he wants a chocolate fountain. The boy wants a chocolate fountain, and he wants us to have that for our customers. And now, again, mind you, I've been in the restaurant business for 26 years, and our restaurant is predominantly a buffet that has young children. Yeah. So in my mind, the chocolate fountain is going everywhere, similar to the Scooby-Doo movie. And I just thought to myself, well, I'm going to let him figure it out, because in the grand scheme of things, he's so passionate about it that he's trying to figure out if we can purchase it, if we can rent it, what we need for it, that I'm going to let him figure it out. Because if there's a mess, we'll clean it up. And if we like it, we'll do it again. And if we don't, we won't. But if I nix that idea, who knows how many future ideas I am knocking down.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. And that's that thing about allowing people to be creative and giving them the space for that creative, which then draws my eyes to your hashtag, be that, create that. Can you explain?
Yeah. So Be That, Create That is actually the name of my training company or my coaching company. So as I was listening to podcasts, I can't remember who it was, but she was talking about, she lived in a bigger city. And one of the things that she likes to put together are these, and this was pre-2020, obviously. She likes to put together these network events because she's like, I wanted to meet new people, but there was nothing in my town where people could just come with a common either niche or common theme that they wanted to talk about, whether it was all women or all men or a mixture of business, casual, whatever. And she said, I just decided because there wasn't what I wanted, I was going to create it.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you don't have something that you want around you and you feel like that's a need and it would help you succeed, then don't wait for someone else to create that. Create it yourself. And it reminded me that moment in 15 when I decided I didn't want to be that mom that didn't like my kids and wasn't happy in my home life. And I decided to be something different. So Be That, Create That came out of kind of those two situations. I have a 21-day challenge that I do called Morning Rush. And one of the things that we do every single day in that challenge is that we pull out, here's my little thing as an example.
Yeah.
We pull out a list of words that I give them completely randomly. Yeah. And every day they pull that word out and they decide how they can use that to write their gratitudes. And most importantly, how can they look at their day and really embody that word? So if I were to pull out capable, something tough comes up, I might say to myself, what would capable Trienne do? If I knew I was capable of whatever it is that I wanted this result to be, what would I do? Yeah. So I try to incorporate the be in that way. And then the create, when I get on my coaching call with someone, one of the questions that I always ask is, what are we creating today?
Yeah.
What are we working on? What are we working towards? What's our next level? So I try to use those really to help kind of to guide my clients into what it is that ultimately is their choice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. And this is why I knew we were going to have a really fun conversation, because we're just so similar on all of these things, on where we're coming from just being, creating, enjoying, having fun, kindness, compassion, all these things that are so important to us all.
And I think when people think of leadership, they get so stuck on their own development that they forget that when we're in service to other people, almost seeing those people develop and being the person that's helping them do that is really developing ourselves as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
So if we stop that focus, that light on us all the time, and we start to put it on these other people, then we can't help but grow with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't remember if you said you have a mindfulness or a meditation type of practice, but that's why I'm so passionate about mindfulness, because it, like coaching, gives you an awareness in the moment of yourself. And one of the pillars of mindfulness is non-judgment and non-attachment, which is the same pillars when you're coaching as well. And when you can interact with somebody without judgment and without attachment to an outcome, it's a completely different experience for everybody. And going back to the beginning of our conversation, then it's just rewarding for both parties as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from a meditation standpoint and a mindfulness, I really try to just be where my 2 feet are at. I try, and I say I try because it's something that I feel like I'm continuously working on. When I'm at the restaurant, I get out of my car and I am in restaurant mode. When I have a day like yesterday that was a CEO day, then I am in my coaching mode, right? Today I have lots of interviews. So I had to prepare myself and the questions that I wanted to ask and what have you. So I really try to just be where I'm at in the moment. And it's something I will continue to always work on.
Yeah. No, exactly. Definitely. It's a continuous journey for sure. You're never going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So because you do so many different things, what's the biggest challenge that you face wearing so many hats?
I get that question a lot. At the end of my podcast, I always say to people, you have one opportunity to ask me a question. I've had you on hot seat for however long, and they always ask me, how do you do it all? And I would say two things. I would say, first of all, time blocking is my friend. I use the Google Calendar and I color code. The nice thing about the color coding is that I can look back at my week, or I can look at my week ahead. Everything in green is the restaurant. Everything in gray is my business. Everything that's in blue is my family. Where are my priorities showing up? And again, something I'll continue to work on is balancing that, because I think you always, balance is BS, but we can get as close as possible. I would say the other thing is giving myself a little bit of grace, because there are definitely moments. My phone is broken right now, so it doesn't ring, but I'll get a voicemail or I'll get a text message. And my husband keeps telling me, you need to go get a new phone. You have to be able to hear out of the top part, and you have to know when it rings. And a piece of me doesn't want to, because it gives me the opportunity to choose when I want to respond. And if I'm having, that moment with my kids, or we're sitting at the dinner table or whatever, if my phone would ring, I would automatically be like, it's got to be the restaurant. So I would get up and I would go try to fix whatever the problem was. Well, that's not allowing me to be in the mom hat and the wife hat in this home space. And that's not fair to myself or to my girls. And it's disempowering for my restaurant team.
No, I agree. There's a lot you can do around mobile phone usage that gives you very, very many boundaries. And we've definitely implemented those in our family, to the point where I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, my daughter's been revising for exams, and she leaves her phone in the kitchen. She goes to her room to revise, her phone's in the kitchen. I didn't say to her that that's what she could do. But she clearly gets that if her phone is with her, then she's not going to be concentrated on the revision. I'm like, my goodness, that's incredible that she's able to work that one out for herself.
Right. That's a huge distraction and an addiction. I mean, they've proved that it's an addiction. So it's interesting that she figured it out that fast, and it's going to really help her.
No, exactly. That's amazing. Another question I always like to ask is if you have a motto that you live by.
So I don't necessarily have one that I live by, but I do. What's so funny is, and I feel like this shows up at all the right times. So when I was younger, we didn't have a lot of money. I spent a lot of summers by myself. My parents were divorced and we lived on a farm. So my mom would go to work and I would stay home by myself all day. Well, I used to write plays and write stories, and I would just go play in the woods and make things up and whatever. And I was going through a box of things that my dad had given me, and this has been a couple of years, and I found this piece of paper. It's so fitting. I just found this yesterday again. So weird. But it says, life itself can't give you joy unless you really will it. Life just gives you time and space. It's up to you to fill it. And I feel like I should frame it, because it's in my little kid handwriting. And I find it at the most random, and we know nothing's random, times. So I would say I don't have one mantra, but I try to be really present when things like that happen, to know that that's what I needed right now.
Yeah. I think that definitely needs to be framed. That's one that you'd be really upset if you lost, I would imagine.
Right. And I was cleaning out my office yesterday with some random papers that were on my desk, and I
Yeah.
moved into my closet, started going through some of my old files. Tax season is over now here in the US. And I found that sheet and I just kind of chuckled to myself. I was like, I always find this at a time that I need it.
Yeah. And, written on a piece of paper that you had with you when you were inspired at that moment just comes deep from the soul when you wrote it. Really lovely. Yeah, that's beautiful. And so what lies ahead in the like next year, next 5 years for you?
Sure. So I I really dislike long-term and it's because I am such a grabber of opportunities that I know if I said 5 years from now, I would like to be, I know that will change. And I am open to that change. I would tell you that some of the things that I have on my battle board right now, or vision board, as some people call them, is I would really like to travel and speak in ways and conferences and things that are empowering women. Retreats. I would love to do some women empowerment retreats, whether it's business and leadership or personal life. I also am working with 2 different groups of women to do some book collabs. I've been wanting to write a book forever. And I finally just took the leap and said, maybe if I try a book collab, I'll get an understanding of the process, but at least I can dip my toe in a little bit.
Yeah.
I absolutely love one-on-one coaching because I really, not really an attachment to my clients, but man, I love to see people win. I love to see people change their own lives. It is such a blessing to be able to do the work that we do. And I would say more of those things is what I would love to have in the next year to 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have a feeling our paths will cross many more times. If that's what's on your path, then I'm most certain it will. So the world is a very small place these days.
Yes, it is. And, as Zoom came out and more videos and more people are comfortable with those and it becomes more of our everyday normal, I love it. But I'm also such a hugger that if I got to meet you in person, I really feel like we would feel like we've known each other forever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And then that just reminds me of if you've ever tried mindful hugging before.
No. Explain that to me.
Yeah. So the first time I did it, it just like filled me with so much emotion. But basically, when we hug somebody, it's sort of you're on your way to doing something else. It can be a bit transactional, etc. But when you do a mindful hug, you make yourself really present in that hug. So you become aware of your breath and their breath, the feeling of their body and their warmth against you, and you're hearing their breath and feeling it on you. And so it's like a all senses activated hug from and you obviously initiate it, but the benefit you get from that sort of hug is incredible. And again, something that I tried with my daughter, I noticed that she loves having hugs, and she comes up and I'm in the middle of like cooking dinner and I've got all this stuff everywhere and she wants a hug. And I'm like, can you just wait? Which doesn't feel good, but sometimes it's just not practical to hug on demand. But then I started trying these mindful hugs and just really, and it just makes up for all those opportunities when I've had to say, I can't give you one right this second. So it's just really beautiful as a tiny thing to do.
It is. And I think with everything being so like snap busy, that giving that moment, it's almost like a moment of appreciation for that person. I love it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's deep. It's really deep. Yeah.
Similar, I have heard people say, especially with our kids, don't be the first to let go. Now, my first daughter, our hug could turn into a dance and she'll never let go. My second daughter, it's going to be extended, but it's what she needs. And in my head, when I get that urge to be like, okay, I love you, but I'm done. I got to do whatever. I think to myself, this is what she needs right now. That's the
Yeah.
change in leadership. When we learn to lead ourselves and who we want to be and what we want to do, it's taking those moments to listen to what our mind is telling us, like, this is what she needs right now. You're
Yeah.
giving this to her. You're in service. This is good for
Yeah.
you too, right? And just really listening to those things that are coming up.
I think that's what's incredible, is that sometimes people think it's selfish to do these things for yourself, but actually it's completely selfless, because in having that awareness of yourself, you can give so much more to somebody else. And it's that analogy that everybody uses about the oxygen mask on the airplane. But it is so, so true, and it does make such a difference. But you have to have that awareness yourself to give it to others. Yeah. Well, I've absolutely loved our chat. We've already gone over half an hour, so I don't know where that time went.
I know, we said that the first time we talked too. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be so respectful of your time, but I literally could talk to you forever.
So yeah, so we will have another conversation, and people will have to follow us both to find out when that will be. But yeah, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and can't wait for the next time. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I love the work that you're doing. I'm so appreciative that you're bringing this out and impacting so many people.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Lovely to see you.